CGB, buddy, do I have a video for you today? How much do you know about the Yu-Gi-Oh anime?
Nothing.
Oh, excellent.
I've seen the first episode.
Okay, you've seen the first episode.
The first episode.
What'd you think?
I've seen one episode. It's an anime.
It is an anime. You are correct.
So what could I possibly say to you about it that would explain why I watched one episode and stopped?
What could you?
I don't know, man. I can see. I guess I can see how it caught on for kids, but I watched it last year, like shortly after, like I guess we've been doing this for over a year, but sometime not long after we started doing this, I watched the first episode, and I was just like, yep, okay, that's a thing. And then I'm pretty sure my wife wanted to get back to watching romantic sports anime, and that's what happened.
Fair,
I don't have control as an adult man. I don't have like veto powers as a married man over what we watch in the evening, and that's literally the only time I get to watch anything now. So if the wife isn't on board, then it just goes in the, well, that was nice, and I never see it again.
Well, one of the unique parts about our game is that it obviously comes from an anime. And so I thought it would be fun to show you cards from the anime. And your goal today, you can talk about it if you think it's good, bad, whatever. Your goal is to guess if they ever ported the card over from the anime into the actual game. Maybe not necessarily with a one-to-one translation of the effect. Like maybe they had to change it to make it like more balanced potentially. But the anime has some crazy cards. So you ready?
I think so. Okay, can't wait. So we're gonna see if these are anime cards that were read off and presented in the show, and whether or not they made them into real cards. Okay.
Correct, yes. And like I said, some of the cards may not have a direct translation of what the card did in the actual anime. They may have had to tweak it to make it more balanced for the actual card game. So there could be some stuff that trips you up here. You said you saw the first episode of the anime, so you should know this card.
I mean, you're asking a lot of me to remember anything. So it's an E.
This card is called Negative Energy Generator.
Negative energy generator, and what you've provided me here says triple the attack of a dark monster. Triple,
and it's free.
What's like in the very beginning you showed me some vanillas, and I just played with some vanillas. Let's say, okay, so if we have like a 1500 attack dark monster that we can just throw on the battlefield, right? Because it's free.
Sure.
If it's level 4 or below, it's just, here it is. And then we play this card. So times 3 is 4,500.
You have 8,000 life points, if you recall.
I mean, I played a card in the starter deck. What did it add? Like 800?
I believe you're talking about Rush Recklessly. That was
700. Yeah, I mean, this is so much more than that.
It's triple.
Oh, God, what? But you can have 3 of them, right? So if you have a 1,000 attack just nerd to play, and then you play one of these,
goes to 2,000.
3,000 times 3 equals 9,000. They're dead. They're dead on turn 1.
That's the wrong math. 1,000 tripled would. Oh no, you're right. I was thinking double. Yeah, no, this is triple. Yeah, so your math.
This is triple.
Yep.
2 of these and you're dead. But this isn't. That's not the name of this game. This game is whether or not they ported it over. They might have restricted it.
Okay.
You know, like one copy fixes that. One copy fixes that. They can do that in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
It's triple. Like I'm also, by the way, I'm only going off like really low stat lines for just something you can play.
Imagine you just summon
a
3,000 attack dark monster and just triple it to 9,000 with one copy. They're dead.
Yeah, they're dead.
They're dead.
Yeah, so what that threshold is? What? It's like 4,000, 3,000 attack?
2,700 times 3 would be 8,100.
Yeah. Okay, so 2,700 is the threshold if you're just dead.
Yep.
And I saw Blue Eyes. That's
Blue Eyes is light, to be fair, but you did see that we have 3,000 attack monsters you can get out for free.
Yeah, things do that. Jesus. I don't know, man. Triple's a scary number. I also think people would love it because they love double. And by God, they love triple. We've entered the tripling phase in the Magic world with cards that have been printed for Commander lately saying triple something. And everybody's like, oh my God. And they're very expensive. They're very hard to cast. They're very clunky. That's why they live in Commander.
Free in our game.
I don't see how a free tripler of damage is fine. But
this is Yu-Gi-Oh!
I know, but that kind of makes it even more dangerous because you could also combine it with other things that grant power, like the card that was in the starter deck that I played. These just kind of one-shot you dies. Are those fine in this game? Is that the kind of game you want to play? That was something that Magic really didn't come to terms to with itself. Like, it really avoided these things in the game for a long time, and now you would say that they're a little more popular, but people are still, they feel a certain way about getting domed for 20 by one stupid creature. Triple's dangerous on a free card. Like in Magic, that it's protected in so many ways. I'm gonna say no. They did not go for triple. They made a version of this that was something like it might have even had the same name, and it granted like 800, 1,000 attack or something like that, or maybe double, but not triple. I'm saying they did not bring this as it is to the game.
Dude, so you think they brought it to the game, but you don't think in this form.
So we didn't talk about that of like what counts, right?
So what counts is I'm going based off of solely if they ported it over or not. 50-50.
Exactly as is.
Not as is. Exactly. No, it could be modified. I'm going based off if the named card was brought over to the game.
Oh.
So they could have brought... So, for instance, if you say negative energy generator was brought over, but it was only double, then that would count as you saying they brought it over. I only care about if they brought it over or if they didn't bring it over. In any form. All
right. I have to attack this a little differently. Just a little differently for a second. Because now, let's go back to the video that we made where I tried to find the censored parts of cards, right? So we have to approach this from a marketing standpoint now. Do you want a card called Negative Energy Generator in your game? Do you want to give the toxic nerds a negative energy generator?
That's a good question.
It's kind of a downer of a name, man. Maybe you got to change the name, because I don't think they brought it over as it is, but I could see them bringing over the card. It's in the very first episode of the anime. It has a moment. So if we're not talking about bringing the card over as is, I'm going to say yes, there is a card called Negative Energy Generator in the game. We're going to go with yes, they did something like that.
Final answer.
Yes.
You're starting off bad, CGB. This card was never ported over into the main game in any capacity whatsoever. To be honest with you...
Why?
Great question. So typically what Japan has been doing for the past several years is they do what's sort of called like a... they don't call it that specifically, but they do like what's an anime collection, if you will. And what they do is they start to take a bunch of cards that were in the anime for one reason or another, and they actually do make real-life versions of these types of cards. And so this is one of the ones that just hasn't made its way into the main game as of yet for one reason or another. I think if they made this card as is and slapped a once-per-turn clause on it so they could only do... you couldn't stack multiple copies... I actually think this card would be fine and honestly would see like zero play, because there's so many ways for things to just get killed by removal or to get negated or whatever, that having a way that like you just one-shot your opponent with something like this, I feel like is just, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, is just never going to happen. So I think like for nostalgia, if they printed this, I think it would actually be very funny. The closest thing that there is to this, I'll show you, because I don't know when I'm ever going to show you this otherwise. It's kind of similar, but it's not exactly the same. I'll have you give this card a read right here.
Limiter Removal is a spell. Double the attack of all machine monsters you currently control until end of turn. During the end phase of this turn, destroy. Okay. Yep. So, everything gets berserk is correct. What would happen in Magic.
Correct. So Limiter Removal is a very old card. It's been around for quite some time. There was a point in Yu-Gi-Oh's history where machines were the best deck that you could be playing. This is talking like 2008, 2009 maybe. And even before that, limiter removal was actually restricted. It was limited to a singular copy because they didn't want you to be able to stack it. Because this was a card that if you had 4,000 damage on the field in some way with machines, slap down limiter removal, the game's over immediately. So this card was restricted for quite some time. It's at 3 copies now because it's old and no one cares. But it's always one of these cards that people play with in older formats just because it's a very fun card. A lot of cool tricks you can do with it as well. But that's, I would say, someone could correct me in the comments. That's probably the closest we have to negative energy generator in real life. Was restricted for quite some time, so clearly an effect like this is powerful. But especially by modern Yu-Gi-Oh standards, I think this card would see no play and would be a fun collector piece. So
this is interesting. How do I win at this? How do I win at did the marketing team watch their own anime?
That's one. That's the first step. Yeah, fair. Good point.
Did they like the card enough to think it feels to me. So my marketing brain immediately is wouldn't they want as many cards as possible? Wouldn't you want the crossover wherever possible? So when the reason is I don't know, that just makes my brain panic that this is going to be a disaster video.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I picked it. Anyway, here's your next card. This card's name is Yahi.
Yahi. Okay. It's got a little brown salamander, 6-legged lizard friend. Looks like an earth monster, maybe, level 3. And it says it's a reptile. When this card is summoned, your opponent skips their next draw phase? Interesting. It's 500, 500.
What do you think about this?
It's a very mean card.
Okay.
I like mean cards.
You do?
Let me think about this. Why doesn't Magic have a card like this?
They don't? Probably because they learned from our game.
I can think of cards that do a lot of things. I can think of cards that take a whole extra turn, which is kind of
Sure, that's kind of similar.
That's one way to look at it. There are cards called Time Stop that end the opponent's turn, which you can cast in their upkeep so they don't get their draw phase. There are cards that say they skip their next untap phase. There are cards that say they skip their combat phase. Skip their draw phase. I bet there's a card or two in existence, but they probably were priced out or something, or they were just prehistoric at this point. They definitely aren't printed often. Why don't they have this? And it's on a body?
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. Every time you put a problematic effect that people hate on a body, that means you can clone it. That means you can bounce it. That means you can blink it. That means you can reanimate it. That means you can find ways to repeat the effect. And in Magic, we would go toxic as hell with this card. If this were this could be a 1/1. We would absolutely drive people out of the game with this card.
Yu-Gi-Oh players would too.
So did they?
Were they actually, let's change the question. Were they given that opportunity?
In Magic, there's other things that you could try to stack up with this, things that say you draw an additional card during your draw steps so that usually that's a bilateral effect. Both players get it. Okay. But if you played this, now you're getting way ahead on an opponent. I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh really goes for that. And what is the power of drawing one card? We know how hard it is to draw cards in Yu-Gi-Oh because of how powerful it is when everything's free. So how powerful is denial? Would every deck that had a good reason, would every deck that could just run this, run it? It seems like one of the best little just pieces that you could possibly run, because I don't think you guys have cards that are just here's a 1/1 creature, here's a small creature, draw a card, because I think that they would run that everywhere. We do have that. You have
you
some of
see
those?
It's funny, it's actually the counterpart to Yahi. 1 second.
Interesting.
Here you go.
Yeah, would every deck want these?
Give this card a read.
You could use them to tribute summon. Maybe there are materials for special summon. Ipiria is level 2, 500 defense, 500 attack. If this card is summoned, draw 1 card. You can only use it once a turn. Yeah, exactly. Kind of what I thought. So that does exist. I think what would push this over the top is, can you use the material in other ways? Do you just need... Are you trying to do a special tribute summon?
You know about the extra deck and all the things you can do. So
yeah, is this a material that's an important part of some stuff in an extra deck?
Well, anything could be material.
So nasty.
Yep, they skip their draw and then you combo off with it. Seems pretty good.
Oh, I hate it though. But maybe I'm just reacting too strong to what I would do with it in Magic. Maybe in Yu-Gi-Oh there are just better things to do.
You know how toxic and combo brain Yu-Gi-Oh players are. So
I do.
I mean, basically through me, to be honest. But
what happens if you play 2 of these?
If you played 2 of this card, that is a good question. Some instances, so this is weird. Some instances effects like these stack. Some instances they don't. So it would depend on if it were a real card, how they would template it. But I will say there are historically, there are cards that have the ability to stack skipping effects. Like, for instance, there's a card called Frozen Soul. I guess I'll show you this really quick because I'm never going to have the opportunity to show you this otherwise. This card, I'll have you give it a read first.
Frozen Soul, trapped card. You can only activate this when your life points are at least 2,000 lower than your opponent's. Skip your opponent's next battle phase. Okay.
So this card actually does stack with itself and other battle skipping type cards. So there are some other instances, though, where when it says next, that it doesn't stack. So it really depends on if it were a real card, how they would template it, whether or not that would count.
All right, I'm looking for any other reason that they wouldn't print this. Again, like my marketing brain says, every chance you get to cross over with the anime, especially anything memorable.
But you want this in the game. I think that's like the bigger question. Like, yeah, printing is one thing, but like, do you want to print it, especially like with how toxic it could be? So I get what you're saying, but there's like other flashier cards they could print that would be, for reference, Ipiria was played in a filler arc by a character that is very forgettable. So
yeah, I feel like I have to go with the Magic route on this because they printed many things in Magic that make like they will make you can make your opponent skip extra draw steps with cards like Narset Parter Avails, but they do not mess with the main draw step. There just aren't that many ways to make your opponent skip that. It is the best part of the turn. Everybody knows this. Even my wife. Actually, my wife would hate that. The attack is the best part, and she skips her draw step all the time to get to attack faster because she doesn't care what she's going to draw. She just wants to attack. But we all know, you and I know, that us card gamers, we know that the draw step is the best part of part of the turn. Not close. I'm going to say no. No. Nope. They didn't do this. They didn't lizard this. Nope. No way.
Final answer?
Yeah.
So denying the draw historically has been one of the most unfun aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! I forget if I've shown you Yatagarasu or not, but Yatagarasu was one of the first cards to ever do it. Basically, it said if it attacked your opponent and dealt damage to them, it would skip their draw phase. And it was a spirit monster, which could bounce itself back to the hand and basically just be summoned and do that every single turn, as long as it had the ability to hit in. Very toxic card, was banned for a very long time. Recently got unbanned, like within the past couple years, but it's like so slow now you would never consider playing it. There's another card released around the same time called Time Seal. Time Seal is just a trap card that says skip your opponent's draw phase. That could be recycled through numerous ways to basically Time Seal lock your opponent, and then they can never draw another card. So Time Seal was banned. Funny enough, they also unbanned Time Seal relatively recently. No one plays it because it's so old and so slow that you would never consider it. Yaoi was printed. Give him a read.
How am I supposed to win this? Okay. This card, if this card is summoned and no other cards, you can activate this effect. Your opponent skips their next draw phase. You can only special summon once the turn you activate this effect. You can only use this effect of Yaoi once per duel. Okay, they guardrailed the shit out of this.
They did.
They put this in a maximum security cage.
They did.
Oh my god.
And it would not surprise you.
Oh my god.
Well, do you think it got played?
If this card is summoned and no other cards, you can activate this effect. Ugh. I don't think so. Okay, maybe. I have only played starter deck Yu-Gi-Oh, and this would still be gross in starter deck Yu-Gi-Oh. But I'm gonna say that for big boy Yu-Gi-Oh, no.
Correct. This card has never seen play as far as I'm concerned. Funny enough, Ipiria actually has seen a decent amount of play. Is it
in Master Duel? Can I Yaoi Voxy?
You can. I believe it's in Master Duel.
Let's go. Let's build our own decks. I'm starting with a Yaoi.
So Ipiria has actually seen a lot of play. Both of these were played by the same villain in the show. Ipiria, because it's level 2, is very important because there was a whole level 2 focused deck that needed level 2 monsters on the field. And Ipiria just gave you a card to draw. And you could only use the effect once per turn. But having that as like your starter of that entire strategy was fantastic because it gave you a draw, it put a level 2 monster on the field, and then you could sort of do the rest of your plays. But Yaoi has never seen any play as far as I'm concerned. It's just, like you said, too many guardrails. I think they knew that when they printed it, but, you know, it is what it is. Very funny, though, that, you know, they even considered printing a card that was in the spirit of these old, extremely powerful draw denial spells. But it is what it is. All right, you're not on the board yet. I think
there is no winning here. There's only
Welcome
what
to
are they
Yu-Gi-Oh!
thinking. That's all there is.
Welcome to
nobody
Yu-Gi-Oh!
wins, but we sure played.
Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! All right, let's show you the Pillager.
That is a very aggressive pirate hobo type. What the heck is going on here? Oh my god. Look at your opponent's hand and you can steal 1 card. Nah, come on. Look at their hand. And you can steal a card? How would that even work? Let's see. Everything's free, so I guess actually card stealing is very possible. But that, gosh, seeing the hand was so brutal, right? Nobody could handle that. And now not only do you see it, it says you steal 1 card, so your choice, I'm guessing, would be like the direct translation is like you pick the best card and take it. They're not doing that. No way. So they're not going to print it as it was presented. Now let's talk about the, like, I don't know, you might have a hobo homeless like phobia looking at this card. Does marketing want that in their game, their children's game? No, I don't think so. That doesn't seem fine at all. Look at that smirk. Dude, this guy is creepy as hell. I want no kids seeing this. None.
For context, this card was played by one of the side villains in the first season, the part that you watched the first episode of, whose name is Bandit Keith. He's very much a degenerate, like, you know, I'm gonna like do things to like break the rules of the game, like even outside of the game, to like steal stuff or prevent people. Like he does whatever it takes to win. So it's that's like the theming of it. It's a very him card, I'll say.
Okay, I believe you. I'm
just giving you context. I'm giving you. You didn't watch the anime, so I'm just giving you context.
I don't think you really want. So if you could have shown me this in the censored video, and I would have thoughts. First of all, like, those nails are way too well taken care of for the rest of the character. Like, so, you know, this person doesn't care about what they're wearing, but they sure are taking care of those nails and that is that a goatee? They're taking care of that beard. That's creepy, dude. And something's really wrong with this person. I don't want this in the game. I don't want this effect in the game. Okay. I've had this reaction, and then I have to remember nothing makes sense.
Correct.
So they could print it doing something completely different.
They could. I will say, for the context of these videos, every card, if it did get printed, it's either 1-to-1 or it's very similar to the effect you're going to see, but they're going to put up guardrails kind of like Yaoi or something like. It's not going to be, as far as I know, looking at most of these cards, most of them will be, I think there's like maybe one you could argue that's like kind of different, but still does like what the anime effect says. Again, when they translate it, it has to have like some things added onto it.
I don't see how they could print it as look at your opponent's hand and steal 1 card. What did you say is the name of this card in the game?
The Pillager.
The Pillager. So it's a spell?
It's a spell card. Yep.
Pillaging is a spell. Being the Pillager is a spell. Okay, fine. It should be called Pillage. Anyway. I have so many notes. I don't think they can print this.
I don't think your notes help you.
The cards you showed me, but that's the thing. Like, yeah, where's my notebook? I have something in my notebook about looking at opponent's hand is busted.
I thought you threw away the notebook.
Yeah.
Clearly he went dumpster diving to get it back.
I'm gonna need to for this.
Do you need to pillage through the dumpster?
I mean, my gut says no. I just have to fire with my gut. It's like, I don't think they would have to very much change the ability, because I think this would not go over.
Okay.
So based on what you showed me, especially if it were a quick spell, that would be so nasty.
It's a normal spell card for context.
It's a normal spell card. I mean, I still think that, like, on turn 1, that's so nasty. You don't have mulligans in your game. And if you could do it in multiples, that would be... No. They didn't do this card. No way. There's so many things wrong with this.
Final answer?
Yes.
You're on the board, CGB. You are on the board. They did not print the pillager. You learned from the golden rule. Hands are sacred. However, we do have this card. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close, and I'll explain why.
Exchange. Both players reveal their hands and add 1 card from each other's hand to their hand. If this is the last card you play, you just get them.
What do you mean?
So if you have no cards in hand and you play this, you just get something from their hand. They don't get something from yours.
You wouldn't be able to activate it in that exchange.
Oh,
in that context.
Okay.
You need at least 1 card.
In Magic, it would work that way.
That's gross. Anyway, so when it comes to exchange, this may be one of the only cards that allows you to look at your opponent's hand and take a card from it. Obviously, your opponent gets to do the same thing to you. However, you can manipulate your hand before you activate this card. So hypothetically, let's say you have a hand of 4 other spells and trap cards and exchange, right? You can set 3 of those 4 other cards that you don't want your opponent to take, then activate exchange, give them the worst card in your hand, take the best card out of their hand, or a card that might potentially like disrupt your play, because remember we have hand traps and such. You now have full knowledge of your opponent's hand. Your opponent doesn't know anything aside from the card that you took from them, essentially. And now you can start flipping over some of those spell cards, because normal spell cards you can set face down and still activate them to turn their set, and start going off and doing whatever it is that you want to do with your combo. So not exactly 1-to-1, obviously. Exchange is a very old card. Funny enough, Exchange has actually seen play, like modern play, if you can believe that. Just for that exact instance where you get the hand knowledge of your opponent, you take a hand trap from their hand if they have one, and now you know you can do your combo and your opponent's not going to have anything to stop you, especially if it's the very first turn and they have nothing else set up. So, yeah, the Pillager, I agree, would be very OP. I think it'd be fun if they printed him and put a bunch of guardrails on him and made him bad, but at least it'd be fun to have the card in real life. But Exchange is what we got, and honestly, Exchange was good enough to see play as is, so the Pillager would be even more busted.
I'm telling you, that art was what did it.
Now, is that what did it?
That's what did it. No way.
Well, speaking of art, let's see what you think about this card. This card is called Monster Register.
Monster Register. Is this an angry toaster? No, it's something else. What is this?
It's like an old cash register.
Yeah, it's a cash register. Oh my gosh. Indeed.
An angry cash register.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I saw one of those. All right. Pay 100 life points to activate this card.
1,000.
Each time a monster... Pay 1,000 life points to activate this card. Each time a monster is summoned. The controller of the summoned monster must send cards from the top of their deck to the graveyard equal to the levels of the summoned monster.
Remind you of any magic cards?
When it enters, would it be mill the... I'm trying to think. Is there a card... Is there something that if on the field you play this and it mills that many cards from the top of your deck? We have a few things that mill, but not really based on like the power of the card entering. Okay. But we have cards that like sacrifice a creature to mill that much power. Okay. Kind of.
Okay.
This is kind of like that.
Kind of reminds me of Mesmeric Orb. I got to play with that.
Reminds you of the orb?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep. A little bit. Not exactly the same, but you know, like same vibe, right?
Yep. Orb is just crowd those graveyards. Yep. And that's what this is too. You're just going to play a bunch of monsters and have a graveyard. Have a heck of a graveyard.
But you know how powerful the graveyard is in our game.
I do.
Think of this in Tier Element.
Tier Element didn't need the help.
That's honestly, that's probably true.
It already had the whole engine. This wouldn't see any play because there's no room.
That's true. That's true. It's also a trap card. There's that too.
Pay 1,000 life points. So you're the one down life points. If you don't win, like if you don't close on the spot, the opponent gets access to this too, and they don't have to pay a card or life for it. And what happens when you run out of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh?
You lose the game. On the next time you would draw.
Unlikely.
On the next time you would draw.
The next time you would draw, yep. Equal to the levels. So I'm thinking of all the special summons, all the extra deck summons. It's like some very big leveled stuff. Basically, we started ignoring the cost of these things a long time ago. Of course, so we can assume that a deck that would play this would be able to run like, you know, 6s and 8s and all this and just go brrr.
Yep. That sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh.
I mean, it's a cool card. Would they print that? Would they print something like that? The fact that it wouldn't go in tier elements is... It's like, oh, okay, guys, we need 1 or 2 more cards to fill out our deck. Maybe Infinite Graveyard is fine. I'm a little afraid. Like, Mesmeric Orb is a great example, because Mesmeric Orb, when you play it, you're just like, oh my god, Graveyard Machine. I have endless Graveyard. This is incredible. It doesn't see any play in 1v1, like none, because giving your opponent the graveyard and spending your time on that card is too much of a cost. The cards that see play in 1v1 are cards that strictly either all in give you a graveyard or all in hit your opponent's graveyard to try to mill them out, which is a niche, very fringe strategy.
You seem stumped on this one.
I can see why it's broken.
Sure.
And I'm sure that if they printed a card like this, it would have a deck. I'm not sure that they just wouldn't print a card like this, though, because this is the kind of broken that sells packs for a while. So my marketing brain is like, I don't see anything wrong with the Angry Cash Register. I think it's cool. I think it kind of it works in a lot of ways to me. And the fact that it works makes me think that they would print it. So then if you say they didn't print it because it was too good or something like that, I'm still going to be like, yeah, but I think this would be the fun kind of too good for at least a while. So I based on the power level of the text box, I'm not disqualifying this from being printed. So I'm looking for another reason, and I'm not finding it. So you might laugh at me and say this would be busted. This would obviously be busted. But think of all the obviously busted stuff they've printed. To me, this doesn't violate that directive. It's the fun kind of busted, and we like fun kind of busted as opposed to skipping draw steps and shit like that. So I'm going to say that they made a version of this card. Let's do it.
Final answer.
Yeah.
I agree with, I think, everything you said about this card. I also think one of the limiting factors here is that it's a trap. So the fact you have to set it face down for a turn before you actually get going means, Yu-Gi-Oh! I like to say that, our games don't span over the course of multiple turns. There's a lot of interaction happening within those turns. So a lot of the times when games only go 2 or 3 or 4 turns, a lot of stuff was happening within those turns, right? But that is still a full turn cycle. You have to wait to activate a trap card. So the price of playing a trap card in your deck means it has to be extremely good for you to be able to actually afford to wait a turn in order to play it. And so monster slots, if you open it in your or monster register, whatever, if you set it first face down for a turn, then your opponent does their thing. Then on your turn, you can flip up monster register, have first agency to start milling your grave by summoning a bunch of crap. Seems on the surface like it would be actually kind of balanced in that way. However, they never printed this card. I agree with everything you said, though. I think they could have printed a form of this. I think it would actually be fine. I think it's kind of too slow, to be honest, to even see play. But they're like in older Yu-Gi-Oh! I think a lot of people would have played with this card because I think it would have been very good for the graveyard-based decks in old. And there was enough time because the games took longer in older Yu-Gi-Oh! So you are incorrect, CGB. You are incorrect.
Great. Love being incorrect with the right reasons.
Correct.
It's always the best feeling in these games.
Very reminiscent of our video that you and I did recently. Anyway.
Yep.
Here's your next card. This card is Mischief of the Time Goddess.
Yes, they printed this. What else do we need?
Why are you saying that, CGB? Why are you saying that?
I don't know. Because she's cute. It's like, this is an anime game, right?
It is an anime game. You are correct.
You have not shown me enough waifus. I think we need a waifu episode,
to
be honest.
Buddy.
I think we haven't. I honestly think we've been a little
dangerous territory.
Light on waifu content.
Dangerous territory.
Okay. All right, understood. Let's see. Skip 1 turn to your turn's battle phase. What's that mean?
This is a quick play spell, so you can add it together.
Wait, so you play it on your opponent's turn?
It's a quick play spell.
But then it goes straight to your battle phase, so you don't get a draw step?
Correct. You would skip your draw step, your standby phase, which is like your upkeep, and your main phase 1. You'd go straight to the combat phase. You'd still have a main phase 2, but you go immediately to your battle phase.
Interesting. Okay, and when can you play this before they draw a card?
No, so they will draw a card immediately, and then they have priority to activate any quick play spells or quick effects. If they pass that priority to you, you could hypothetically then immediately fire this and go to your next battle phase. So it is a turn skip, essentially, but they still get the draw.
And what are they saying the name of this was?
Mischief of the Time Goddess.
Oh, come on. They printed that. They might have changed it a little. How did they not print that? Let's go.
Well, remember, you talk about how, I don't want to say ubiquitous, but you have many different turn skip type effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! I will give you context. There are very few turn skip type effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! This being one of them. There are very few of them, just generally speaking. And with what you understand about our game, you can understand why that would be the case.
Oh, I can see this being a very brutal card. You go down a draw step, but you basically get double attacks. I mean, it's kind of a free extra combat at cost of a card. Well, 2 cards if you count the card itself. Is there another way to do it? I mean, if you just printed it and said, skip this battle phase, go directly to your battle phase, that would be fine, right? Because they would get a card, they get to cast some stuff, they wouldn't get to attack, you would go down a card because you skip your draw step and you don't get to play anything. That card would probably not even be great. So I can see a version that they printed of this that works, and the marketing department, come on, if the marketing brain is, we got to go to work. Okay, we got to sell these packs. Let's go. How do you not print a Mischief of the Time Goddess card? So maybe with some edits, but yeah, print something with this card.
Okay,
Let's
final
do it.
answer.
Let's go. Yeah, final answer.
This is an interesting card. Like, this, I think, would be way too busted in its current form because, like I said, you're literally skipping your opponent's turn, even though they do get the draw phase. It's interesting because since Yu-Gi-Oh! Has hand traps and quick effects, even with a turn getting skipped entirely, and they have to go specifically to their battle phase, they need to already have, like, an established board for it to make sense for you to want to skip immediately to your battle phase. Sure, you could argue you don't care because then you could just go to main phase 2 and do a bunch of things, but you don't kill them necessarily. So like it's kind of like an interesting design in a way. I still think it's broken beyond belief. They did in fact print it because of the waifu tax. So here is Mischief of the Time Goddess. Give her a read.
Oh, let's go. Wow, look at all the extra text added to this gal. Oh my goodness. All right. So there's a spell. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this. Cannot be activated as chain link 2 or higher. Sure.
You know what that means?
I think I do.
Think about the stack.
Basically,
think about the stack. You can't play it as like a second card on the stack. Like it has to be the only thing being activated.
Yep, because when you do that, those things are just gone, so it becomes like a counter spell in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. At the end of your battle phase, if all monsters you control are Valkyrie monsters, oh my god. And there's a min of 1. Okay, so you can't do it with nothing. Send this card to the graveyard. Also, immediately after this effect resolves, skip to the start of the battle phase of your next turn. They can't just say have another battle phase. They have to do that. But again, now you don't get a card draw. So kinda. I don't know. If you do, you cannot activate this until the end of that turn. Yeah, they guardrailed the holy hell out of this card.
Yeah, like, honestly, it's pretty close to being the original. The biggest difference is that you have to control Valkyrie monsters. For context, Valkyries are the archetype of cards that the villain used in this filler arc of the anime. And so it's thematic based on that. If any deck could use this card, it would be batshit crazy. Even like if you just remove that you need Valkyrie monsters, decks would play this card. I'm pretty sure. So they had to limit it to a particular archetype, which that archetype sucks, so no one plays it, so this card doesn't see any play. But it does have the waifu tax, so there is still that going for it. And that's the main reason you thought they printed it. And honestly, I think that's the reason they printed it too. But you know, we'll leave that for the comments to decide.
You did everything you could, my friend, to make me sweat it out. You really tried on that one. You wanted the drama, but you knew it was over the second I saw this card.
Yep. The comments can let us know if they want the waifu episode, by the way, because we can give you waifus. That is not an issue in the slightest. All right, this will be interesting to see your thoughts on this one. I'm very curious. I did show this one to Rarin, I believe, and that was entertaining. This one's called Life Shaver.
So, the sponsor of today's video is Life Shaver. Sick of losing life every time you shave? I give about 800 points of blood every time I shave. All right, let's see. We got something that looks like an hourglass. Sands in the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. That's a very old reference. Still going, maybe, though. Your opponent must discard 1 card from their hand for each of your turns that this card has been set. Oh, so is it a trap?
This is a trap card, yes.
Okay. And if it were to play exactly as presented, you set this, let's say turn 1, and then let's say on the opponent's turn, after their draw step on turn 3, if you flip this, they have to discard 3 cards immediately?
No, so it's only your turns. So if you set this card face down during your turn pass, that would be 1 turn. Then circles back around to you. If you end that turn, then technically that would be 2 turns and so on.
So then let's say that we end our 3rd turn. Do we activate this on the opponent's turn?
Correct. You could. Yeah.
So can you do that after their draw step before they get to use the card they drew?
Unless it is a quick play spell or a quick effect, then yes, which most of the case that probably is. So yes, each turn that goes by, that's 1 extra card they have to discard.
Oh, that's so rude.
Yeah, I feel like you would love this card.
No. No, that's toxic. No. People get it wrong, man. I'm not trying to crawl into people's hands and take their things from them before they even play them. I want them to try to play it and then know the pain of it not resolving or getting destroyed.
It's 2 different things, excuse me.
Yes, they're very different. They're very different. I make fun of the people
you
who
let them play the cards. You just want to take that power away from them when they do play them.
Yeah, I make fun of people who run all discard spells. I'm like, oh wow, you're really good at Magic. The thing with discard spells is if you just make the opponent discard cards of their choice, that they never invested resources into that spell. So it's like you traded something, they traded something. It's kind of like a resource wash, right?
Sure.
But you spent mana on yours. They spent nothing on theirs. So if they can then take advantage of the mana that they have available, they are getting ahead because they get to use their mana on something that actually impacts the board, and you use mana on something that never impacted the board. So like discard gets clowned because they overdo it on that, and then you just draw a couple good cards, or you use your mana, sink it into something like a land as utility, and you just run away with the game. It's like so easy to beat them. I make fun of them all the time. So, but this is, I mean, that is really nasty if you can set this early and then on like a key turn, even turn 2 or turn 3, just flip this and knock out multiple cards would be really mean. But is that magical rare in land? I mean, even the starter deck has a way to just blow up a trap card. Why wouldn't they do this? Every turn in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so long that I bet that if they printed this nowadays, it wouldn't even be very good.
That's interesting.
Yeah, if you set it on turn 1 and use it on turn 3, it can absolutely swing the game. But that's assuming nothing terrible happened to you those other turns.
That's also assuming they have 3 cards in their hand.
Yep, exactly.
Because in our game, like we can empty our hand on the first turn, and then all of a sudden, this card's not very good, right?
Oh yeah, that's terrible. In fact, going second, it might already be a disaster. Although the idea that it kind of nerfs a draw step if it's not a quick play spell, right?
Sure.
It kind of gets it back.
Sure.
Like no matter what, if the opponent's empty-handed and you play this and face down and you pass,
it's like it skips their draw in a way.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. But at that point, you better be ahead, or you're just going to take a beating anyway, and you spend a card to just not fall further behind. But what you should have been doing is trying to catch up. I can see why it's annoying, but I don't know that it's toxic enough. It might have been very early when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was going several turns. I don't know if it's even good in current Yu-Gi-Oh! Given the state of trap cards and the way that discard affects in your game, especially with it being the opponent's choice that, okay, I'll put this thing in the graveyard and then bring it back or use it as a resource.
True.
So it doesn't alarm bell me enough. So why not? They can add a few guardrails to this so it doesn't hit the draw step that way.
Okay.
Maybe, and then you're good. So I'm going to say this got printed.
Why don't you take a look at Life Shaver?
Yes! Yes! All right. You can only control 1 Life Shaver. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, place 1 counter on this card during your opponent's end phase. During the main or battle phase, if this card has a counter on it, you can send this to the graveyard, then make your opponent discard as many cards as possible, up to the number of counters. Yep, they worked around the ability to hit the draw step.
Correct.
And then kind of made this card fine.
Yep, I will say this is definitely a lot worse. One thing you may have overlooked is the fact that it's kind of hard for you to track how many turns this card has been set face down because we don't play digitally, right, for the most part. I mean, we have Master Rule, but how would you do that, right? So it has to be face up to start acquiring the counters, which makes it way worse because your opponent doesn't, they now know that you have this card. But you are correct that even by modern standards, this card is just way too slow. Funny enough, this card actually got printed recently. They printed, they manufactured Kaiba's briefcase. Remember in the anime when he shows the briefcase to Grandpa to like trade all the cards for his Blue Eyes White Dragon? They actually like manufactured that briefcase like 1-to-1 as like a fun thing for people who like the show to buy as like a very fancy prop. And within that, there was a decks of cards and some exclusive cards to that product, one of which was Life Shaver because it had never been printed in the game before. But this was very recently. Cards very just outdated. There's just like no way you'd ever play this. I think there's an argument for old Yu-Gi-Oh! This card would be very good because I've shown you some of the crazy hand destruction cards that existed in that old format or old version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! 1, as you like to call it. Even showing your opponent that they have this, if they don't have a way to answer it, ripping multiple cards out of your opponent's hand in old Yu-Gi-Oh! Is devastating. So I actually do think there would be an argument for old Yu-Gi-Oh! That this card would have been very good. But new Yu-Gi-Oh! You would never see this card. But you got it correct. That's all that matters.
This segment brought to you by Lifesaver. Check out the link in the Sumo's description to get your discount on the Lifesaver product.
Any of the shaving companies, there we go. We missed an opportunity. All right. Here is your next card. This card is titled Altar of Restoration.
Altar of Restoration. Sounds like a card. You can play that. That would play. We got an angel thing. Got dude in robe on altar, maybe coming back to life. We'll see. And it says remove from play the top 2 cards of your deck. Add 1 card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a spell?
This is a normal spell card, correct.
Remove from play. What does that mean?
That is banish.
Buy, good, out of there?
That is banish. Exile, if you will. This is before they changed the templating and made that a more official term. They called it remove from play initially. They eventually changed it over to banish just to use less words on the card.
All right, so outgo 2 cards from your deck. Add 1 card from your graveyard to your hand. Any card from the graveyard to the hand. I mean, we've got cards that have been restricted and banned that brought something directly into play. Is hand worse? Because now, like, everything's free. If you cast something, maybe you get an extra effect or something like that. It also can get spell and trap cards, but this seems more about... The game as a whole seems more about monsters.
I mean, you Pot of Greed.
I mean, you could.
Have you thought about drawing 2 cards today, CGB?
I have. I have. Probably about 15 times by now. That whole Roman Empire thing made no sense to me until somebody said, it's like you withdrawing 2 cards. And I'm like, damn it. You're so right. Oh, no. Ask your card gaming boyfriend if he's thought about drawing 2 cards today.
Or girlfriend. We don't discriminate here. Shout out the 3% female viewers on the channel.
Hell yeah, 3%. The memes get stuck in my head. I don't mean it. Let's see. 1 card from the graveyard to the hand. So in Magic, we have cards like Regrowth. They have at times been restricted or banned because they're just a cheap way to get any card back to your hand from the graveyard.
Sure.
And just the main thing that they abused were extra turns. Like that's the main problem.
Okay.
That you get back extra turn spells so you can loop them over and over and over. Seems like those are not a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm trying to think of, you've shown me many other cards, so like things that have been restricted and banned at times, things that steal opponents' monsters, things that reanimate monsters. I'm willing to just say this could be printed. I could see it. In Magic, I think this
seems like a very Magic card,
could happen.
Just on the surface.
This does. It does seem like a very Magic card.
But you have cost.
So we do.
That's a big difference.
But we even have cards, like there's a card called Noxia's Revival. Maybe I'll show it to you someday, so I'm not going to talk too much. But like, there are cards that, like, for not high prices,
can get
let you
back.
recur things from the graveyard.
Gotcha.
And they don't even usually have this exile effect, but of course Magic decks are usually 60 to 100 cards, so it's not nearly the cost it is.
And the graveyard for us is a lot better too, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I feel like even in the anime, this had some guardrails and a cost associated with it.
This is the anime effect I'm showing you.
Yeah. Understood. Sure. Why wouldn't we try this out? I keep trying to think of it, and with all the things that you've shown me, I can't think of it seems like the mill cards are busted and have guardrails, so a card like this doesn't have to be protected as hard. So yeah, I'm gonna say they made this card.
Final answer?
Yeah.
They have not made this card. I think this card would be batshit crazy if it got printed.
Yeah? You think
Yes,
so?
I do.
This would get banned?
So I think it would probably get restricted first, and then they would ban it. That's typically like what they do unless something's really egregious. They try to restrict it first because they still want people to play, especially if they're trying to sell the product. Let's be honest. But I think this would be crazy. Being able to add any card from grave to hand at the cost of banishing 2 cards off the top of your deck, that's not a cost. Like anyone would do that any day of the week because like unless you hit a very specific type of card, for the most part, you don't care what you're going to banish off the top. And so for the ability for you to either get a card that might be an older card that like doesn't have a once per turn clause on it, let's say back to your hand to use a second time in a turn. Maybe it's a restricted card, for instance, right? Like old school Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just resurrect a monster from either player's graveyard. That's all it does. It's from the very first set of the game, but it doesn't have a once per turn on it, but it's limited to a singular copy. So the fact that you would be able to use that effect twice in a turn could be very powerful. Being able to recur back just like a hand trap, like maybe you used a hand trap during your opponent's turn, your turn comes around, I'm going to Altar of Restoration, get the hand trap back, so now they have to play around it like a second time. That could be very frustrating. There's so many use cases for this card. They'd have to put some serious guardrails on it if they wanted to print it. I think that'd be very fun, but at the same time, I think this card would be, in its current form, would be like absolutely insane, and I think every deck would probably play this card.
2 busted. Interesting.
Yeah.
That is helpful context for other videos.
There's very few cards that generically add any card from your graveyard to your hand. Like typically it will be like within a specific deck and or archetype where it's like, oh, add a Blue Eyes card from your graveyard to your hand, right? It's not the fact that it's any card, that it's so open-ended like that, I feel like has just unlocked so much opportunity and potential for like just both degenerate and like non-degenerate things that it'd be very fun, but at the same so for instance, right, let me show you this card. This is an old card. Like this is the type of card people were playing before just because it was good. Give this a quick read.
Monster Reincarnation is a spell, and it says discard 1 card, then target 1 monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand.
So in old Yu-Gi-Oh, this card saw play, which seems crazy that you would go 2 for 1 just to get something out of your graveyard. But there were really powerful boss monsters back in the day that you would maybe mill to your graveyard, like either intentionally or by accident, or being able to have a second chance to play that boss monster if you already played it once. This card did see play in decks, and so this had a much steeper cost. It has to be a monster. You have to discard a card, where Altar of Restoration really doesn't have a cost. Exiling the top 2 is nothing. So the fact it's any card you can get back, you know, in the old days, Pot of Greed, like all the crazy cards that I've shown you before, you can get all those back, right? It's like and now we're in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It just feels like the potential for this card would be absurd. This would be like a $100 plus card if they probably printed it. And people can fight with me in the comments. I think this card's crazy. I think this card is extremely good.
I think they should print it and restrict it immediately.
They have done that before. They have done that
Let's
before.
go.
I think I've shown you one of the cards that they did that to. We only got a few left. We're nearing the end here. Here's your next one. This card is called Celebration of Creation.
Look, a baby. Activate only when a monster is special summoned by a card effect during your opponent's turn. Your opponent's turn ends. So it's a trap.
It is a trap card.
What is the story here? You
It's
said
like a
the
baby being
celebration
born.
of creation. So the opponent summons a monster. Oh my god. Oopsie child. Can't play right now. Gotta go. It's the classic gamer story, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not that I would know, don't have kids, but let's say I've seen the miracle of creation a few times, and sometimes they gotta get up and leave mid-game, and you don't see him again for 10 years. The flavor is really funny. I keep on trying to decipher how this makes sense. Had a baby, can't play right now. Okay.
Yeah, you're like still like in recovery from having the baby, right? Think about it.
Special summoned by a card effect during your opponent's turn. What does that mean? Special summoned by card effect.
So there are effects of cards that will special summon cards to the field. Like, let's say a spell card. A spell card might say special summon a monster with these restrictions on it to the field. That would be by card effect. It's basically saying that, but for instance, summoning from the extra deck is not a card effect. That's just like a summoning mechanic, just like tribute summoning or anything like that. So if they brought something up from the extra deck, you couldn't use this. But if they have an effect of like that says special summon a monster from your hand or deck that does whatever, that would be by card effect. So for clarity there.
But they have to do this specific thing.
But it is Yu-Gi-Oh!
But you can do it, right? Activate only when a monster is. Can you special summon something by card effect on your opponent's turn?
You could, based off the way that this is worded.
That's pretty mean.
It doesn't say your opponent has to.
That's a combo.
That's a cool combo, yeah. And there are quick effects that allow you to do such a thing. I will let you know.
Are they good?
Yeah, there are many good ones, as a matter of fact.
In which point, ending the opponent's turn with this card would be so brutal. Be so brutal. Would they print this? So I think if it weren't worded that way, so maybe they just changed the wording to print it, like, because it is one of those things, like, it might be a dead card. It doesn't do anything if the opponent doesn't special summon something by card effect. And it's definitely one of those things that they could play around if it's on their radar. And traps in general have become slower. But the idea that you could combo it and trigger it yourself on your opponent's turn, I think that's where it becomes absolutely busted. So I think if they did this, they changed it. But that's a pretty easy change. That's an easy change. So let's think. Is there any other reason they wouldn't do this? Because they want parents to play their game, not disappear?
That's a good reason.
I'm still stuck on the lore. Also, you are definitely portraying childbirth as a trap. Can't get past that. This card feels strange to me for some reason. I can't quite explain it. There's a lot of things that you've shown me that are clearly Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This doesn't feel like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It doesn't feel like something that shows up in your children's card game. It feels like it just... It was
in the anime,
I don't know.
So.
I believe that, but I think that, the people making the anime do the thing, and then the people who making the card game might look at it and have a different opinion, and obviously they don't feel like they have to do everything. I mean, this looks straight out of Sunday school. And there's just something about it that is like, doesn't feel right to me. I don't know what. If I could spell it out differently, I'd love to. I'm pretty good at usually talking about what I think of cards. There's something here that isn't doing it.
Okay.
Where I'm like, if I worked at Konami, if I were marketing, if Yu-Gi-Oh was my brand, and I had a choice of whether or not to make a card like this, I wouldn't. And I'm not sure why. But the alarm, I'm gonna go with no, and I'm not sure. I can't quite get there as to why, but that's why.
Final answer.
Yeah.
You can't figure out why, but you were correct. They've never printed this card. Maybe because of the illusion with childbirth and the religious stuff. Because as you know from the censored video, that's something that's very common. I think this card would be crazy if they did print it, and I hope they don't, unless they put a bunch of guardrails on it, make it bad. Because there is the world where you could have this in your sideboard. Games 2 and 3 roll around. You just side 3 copies of this in. Basically, every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is special summoning in some capacity with card effects. So all you have to do is wait for your opponent to do any of those. Or, like you said, if it's printed 1-to-1, you just copy... Or, I'm sorry, to copy. You just special summon your own thing and just trigger it yourself, and then they basically can't play the game because the game is so special summon focused. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has taken a pretty hard stance against the cards that are just anti-playing for the most part, and this would definitely be one of them. So if they printed it, it would probably be way worse in its actual form. So you're correct. They've never printed this card.
You get a vibe from it? I just get a vibe. I don't know how to explain this one. I'm rarely unable to explain my thoughts.
Yeah, it's an interesting card. It's an interesting card.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You talked about drawing 2 cards earlier, so I think you'll like one of our last couple cards here we have to go through. This is Card of Sanctity.
Card of Sanctity. So a spell, I guess we can
normal
say
spell
from the
card.
frame.
Correct.
Okay, normal spell. Each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand. What? Just on your turn, you play this and you go up to 6.
Yep.
No way.
Your opponent also does, though.
Yeah. I guess in hand trap world that could matter, but it feels to me like on your turn where everything's free, you play 4 things and then you play this and then you play 5 things and you play another one of this and then you play 5 things and you play another one of this and you win easily. Like how often, like how normal would quick effect like hand traps have to be for this to be okay?
I will let you know there are at least one, if not multiple hand traps that could interact with this to either stop it or to discourage the opponent from wanting to keep playing endlessly.
Yeah, that...
Because if your opponent's also drawing into hand traps, right, that sort of like slows you down. So there's like, it's not just that simple in our game.
You're right, but like even if you're doing this on turn 1, they never got to play anything and you're up like
you can still hand trap them on your turn 1.
If they're lucky, like...
You understand how many hand traps we play in our deck, CGP.
Okay, I do believe that. I still just think, like in a world where things are free, I've played way too many like kind of solitaire games of Magic where you combo off with cards that just shuffle and draw more and shuffle and draw more and then play stuff and draw more. And that's, you know, a very like classic Magic strategy. And in those decks, we have to figure out how to do it while paying cost. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't. The idea that just by nature of going first, if they don't have something to interact with this, or maybe they interact with the other 3 or 4 cards you played, so they don't have something to interact with this, and this is the last card you play, and you're fully reloaded, seems absolutely brutal to me. Seems like a monster. Seems like this card, I would restrict or ban this card in a heartbeat. So why would they make it?
Great question.
At this point, hopefully they knew something. Okay, what guardrails could they put on this card? If you had to play it on your opponent's turn, that would be worse.
It'd have to be a quick play spell too in that case. This is just a sorcery.
Yep, they'd have to change that around. If you couldn't play any more spells this turn, that would fix it. Sure. That would fix it.
Or just throw a once per turn clause on it. You could do that too. That's something.
Yeah, once per turn. Yep. Maybe if you did it in the end phase, something like that.
That's another way. Yeah. Okay.
Card as presented, busto. A few guardrails. Card as presented, exciting?
It is exciting.
Yeah.
It is exciting.
See, if you're watching the anime, this is the exact opposite of the last one where I'm like, don't really want that around my card game. I'm like, this is like the card game nerds are like, oh, gimme. Yep. And so that's the marketing department is like, we have to do something with this. It will sell 1 billion packs. And they're like, yes. And then we even put out in the teaser, coming to Yu-Gi-Oh! What did you say the name of this is?
Card of Sanctity.
Card of Sanctity. Oh, even the name. They know. They already know. Oh, God. So, yeah, in marketing land, yes. If you're watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're in charge of making cards from the anime and putting them in a game and making the card game, and this one comes out, and it probably has a big moment in the anime because it sounds like it should.
I'll let you know, every player in the anime basically has this card in their deck.
Oh, well, there you go. Then it's like 100%. It's pre-hyped to the moon. So now we play the metagame. Are you showing me this because they just never printed it? And you even gave me that little nugget, didn't you?
Good question.
And everybody's like, yeah, when are they going to print it? And they just keep that one in their back pocket to mess with you because it seems so clear to me that they should do something with it. And you were just so helpful just now. Almost too helpful.
What? I'm in a good mood, CGB. I can't be in a good mood.
No. My first instinct was it's too good, they won't print it. My second instinct was the hype train says they have to print it. My third instinct is this is a Cimoooooooo trap card and they never printed it for some reason. And he knew I'd get to this level, to level 2.
Am I at no, that's level 3. That's level 3.
Yeah. So we're going there. They didn't print it. They didn't print it. They're still holding it over our heads today. Any minute they're gonna print it. Just you wait, nerds. And you too will draw up to 6 cards.
Card of Sanctity's purpose, funny enough, I think is for the script writers of the anime because the Yu-Gi-Oh players, notoriously just dump their whole hand into some bad boss monster that probably dies, and they need a way to sort of refill their hand with cards, so that way they can actually keep the story going, if you will. Because if they don't have cards, they can't play, and it's very boring if I'm just going draw pass for 3 turns to refuel my hand. Right? So I think they intentionally designed this card solely for that reason, so that way they can just keep games going. There's multiple cards that are like this in the anime, like Pot of Greed, for instance. That's another good one. Not drawing 6, obviously, but there are other cards that can refill your hand like this, like Card of Sanctity. But I feel like, for the most part, a lot of the people in the anime have Card of Sanctity for the scriptwriter's sake, but you are incorrect, CGB. We have Card of Sanctity.
Oh, come on.
But why don't you give it a read? Why don't you give it a read?
Plot armor, I tell you. Banish all other cards you control and in your hand. Draw until you have 2 cards. What have they done to my boy?
Yep, they murdered our boy. They murdered our boy.
You've got Monkey Pod. Oh my god.
Yep.
Not like this.
Yeah, this was a fun one. This was a fun one.
Oh my god.
So as you can expect, this card has seen 0 play because this card sucks, which is very sad. It's very sad. I think people wanted like an anime version of it. I think that'd be very fun. I believe I showed you the Card of Demise in a previous video. That's a card where if you draw till you have 3 cards in your hand, and at the end of the turn you discard all the cards, and there's a bunch of other restrictions on it. That one wasn't a direct one-to-one comparison either, because in the anime you draw 5 instead of 3. But Card of Demise like saw play and is limited, as a matter of fact. It's very good. So it's funny that they made like a really good version of an anime card, and then they gave us Card of Sanctity, which is like the worst possible iteration of this card imaginable. Which sucks, but it is what it is.
I can't believe it. They had it. They had the gold mine right in their hand.
They did. They very much did. Speaking of the gold mine, I have your last card for you here. This is the Golden Castle of Stromberg. Give this a read.
You have lands in your game? This would be a land in Magic in a heartbeat.
It looks like a land, yeah. You show me some cards that look like this.
What is this actual? This is like a spell, actually,
This is a field spell. This is a field spell. Have I told you about field spells before?
Like an enchantment?
It's like an enchantment that has its own dedicated zone that each player has one of. And so if something removes it from the field, it gets destroyed. But for the most part, it's like an enchantment. It just sits there and does the thing.
What the hell? Okay. Did they spend the entire anime reading the card?
Maybe one episode.
Going on here?
Maybe one episode.
Oh my god. During each of your standby phases, send half the cards in your deck to the graveyard if you cannot destroy this card. Well, no, that doesn't seem fine. That, like, we're on bullet point number 1 and it's messed up. Okay. Once per turn during your main phase 1, special summon 1 random level 4 or lower monster from your deck in face-up attack. Okay. What? Why? What? Okay. You cannot normal summon or set monsters. That's a vibe. All monsters special summoned by this card's effect and all monsters your opponent controls must attack if able. Let's keep going. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy that monster and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's attack. Oh my god! Stop hitting yourself. Like, what are we doing? This card cannot be destroyed by the effects of other spells, traps, or affect monsters, and your opponent must pay this card's maintenance cost. What's that mean?
That's the first effect, where they have to mill half their deck.
Oh, they have to. Is that a bad thing?
I don't know, is it?
Doesn't seem like a bad thing. I would play a free card that said mill half your deck next turn, but the opponent doing it, I would be like, maybe not. Hold up.
This one's a bit of a roller coaster.
This card cannot be destroyed by spells, traps, or affect monsters. It's going nowhere. This has to happen.
Well, it says destroyed. So, you could bounce it. You could banish it. So, like, just says destroyed.
Okay. When an opponent's monster declares an attack,
it's unaffected
destroy
by
it.
Everything.
Like, you give your opponent the biggest, juiciest of graveyard. It's not trivial for them to get rid of this, but there are ways to do it. If they don't get rid of it, anything they attack with will kill them. Oh my god.
So do you want some lore?
This
It's anime
let me
lore.
take a shot.
It's anime lore. It's anime
let's
lore.
see, anime lore. Yeah, so
okay.
let's see. If I were writing a script around this, you discover a city that just makes you insane. But go on.
So the anime lore behind this, and I'm sure the comments will correct me if I'm wrong here, is that this card was by the person who made Yu-Gi-Oh! In the lore is called Pegasus. So the lore is that Pegasus made this card, but deemed it like way too powerful to ever be played. And so I don't know like how the villain in this show got a hold of it, but the villain of the show got a hold of it and then somehow hacked into like the database of cards and made it even better than like it was supposed to be, and basically made like a Reddit custom card for them to use in the anime to make like this all-encompassing Yugi's never going to be able to beat this card type of card. And so that's like the short version of it.
Okay, I want to see this episode. This is the kind of villainry I can get behind.
This duel is actually like very hype. It's very hype. I don't want to spoil it. It's like 4 episodes long though.
Nice. I mean, reading this card is one of them.
That's true. That is actually true. I'm not lying.
During your main phase 1 special summon a random from the deck. Okay. And that's you doing that, or your opponent does that? Is that part of the maintenance? Okay.
No, the maintenance is only the first bullet point.
Well, then why do you need to get stuff? You can, because you can't play anything. Okay.
Well, you can't normal summon or set. You can still special summon as much as you want. So.
Oh well, that's not even a restriction.
Hey, the normal summon's important. You get one of them.
Yeah. You get a random one from your deck. It gives you the normal summon on its own.
It's random. You don't get to choose.
Yeah, but it's from your deck, so you just have the card left over if they somehow survive and deal with this.
Hey,
I'm just
stating facts. I'm just stating facts here.
Your facts are that this card is fucked. Okay.
So would they print it?
Yeah, honestly, like reading it is probably a mistake for me in the situation I'm in right now. Because if I read the card, there are a million ways that this is not fine. And even just trying to understand what it does is just going to lead me further in the wrong direction of a rabbit hole. That we have to use the logic from the previous card of if they did an absolutely sick duel with the card that was too powerful, that the players were never supposed to have, and the villain hacks into it and makes it even better. There's no way to beat this card.
Well, you thought about this with Card of Sanctity.
I did. Like, what is more hype? Because I triple leveled it. You know, I could have just stuck on level 2 and been like, then they printed it because people wanted it. The problem is you've got a reputation to keep with this card that it has to be insane. You can't put this card in your game and not have it be insane. If you do, it is such a letdown, and the players will roll their eyes and meme on you forever. And the next time there's an incredibly hype card in your anime, they're going to say, what's the name of this card? The Golden City
Golden Castle of Stromberg.
Yeah, what about the Golden Castle of Stromberg? That card was supposed to be the greatest thing ever, and it sucked.
So would they ever print it then if it couldn't live up to its reputation?
That is a good question. Is
it better being a mythical? Yeah, I was gonna say, is it almost better just being this mythical what if instead of them actually printing it?
Again, you want to sell cards, but is this really what you want to have to print and then stand by for the rest of time? And obviously you can't print it with this text. You got to do a lot to this card.
Can't print it with this text, huh? Interesting. Okay.
Oh my God, really? If you tell me,
or I'm just fucking with you just because you're already messed up.
If you tell me they printed this card just as is, oh my God, I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
Which side are you on? You gotta give us an answer.
How
much am I baiting you? How big is the trail of breadcrumbs?
A lot. So many breadcrumbs. But I'm just gonna stick on level 1 for this one. No, they didn't print it. It's better as a mystery, and there's no way they could do all this and pull it off in a satisfying way. So they said, you know what? We're gonna keep that one in the back pocket. Nope, they didn't do it. Jesus Christ. And there it is.
Read it. Read it.
Do I have to?
Yes, sorry.
Can't you just tell me it's
no.
okay?
You need to break it down piece by piece.
Once per turn during your standby phase, you must banish 10 cards from the top of your deck face down. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. During your main phase, you can special summon one monster from your deck that specifically lists the card Golden Castle of Stromberg in its text. Well, that's a guardrail.
That's a guardrail. Yep.
You cannot normal summon set the turn you activate this effect, even if this card leaves the field. I hope the card is special summoning sucks. You can only use the effect of Golden Castle of Stromberg once per turn. An opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy the attacking monster. If you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack that monster had on the field. They took away the ability to, they took away this thing's protection.
They took away the protection, but everything
took
else,
away the protection.
Everything else is pretty similar in a lot of ways. I think the biggest...
no, they're not having a graveyard. You're banishing 10 cards. You don't get the graveyard either.
Correct. So I think that's an important guardrail they put on because, as you know, the graveyard is basically our second hand. So I think banishing, it also banishes face down. I'm not sure if I ever showed you any card that does that before. Banishing face down means that you are basically never getting that card back ever again. Our banish zone is kind of like our second graveyard, if you will, where certain decks can interact with it like they would a graveyard. But banishing face down is like that card is gone for good. That's like a later mechanic that they added, and it's quite fun just because it allows you to do a lot of other things. So they changed the milling the deck to the banishing part. Do you want me to spoil how Yugi ends up destroying this card, or no? Do you actually want to watch the episode?
God, I kind of want to. I need to know the episode. I need to know.
I can send you the episode if you want to watch. I won't spoil it.
Yeah. I'm kind of hyped now. I have some anime viewing for the evening. I might be able to sell this to Gina, so we have a shot.
Okay. It's also good because the whole theme of his deck is fairy tale cards. So there's like Cinderella and like the pumpkin carriage and just different things like that. It's very cute. Anyway, so I won't spoil the ending. People who've seen the anime know how Yugi destroys this. But funny enough, the fact that Golden Castle banishes instead of milling was actually important for a very specific reason. Let me have you give this card a read.
Gren Najuda Iza. The attack and defense of this card becomes the number of cards that are removed from play times 400 points.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is an old card, so it should be banished. This is a very old card. So, in tandem with other cards, such as Pot of Desires, which I've shown you before, this banishes the top 10 cards of your deck face down. You draw 2. This created a deck known as One Punch Man, where basically you had a bunch of these cards that would banish like a majority of your deck. And if you had a singular copy of Grenmaju to Aiza, it would have like 16,000 attack, and you just literally one-hit your opponent. We've come full circle with like the negative energy generator, right? This deck got second place at the equivalent of a Magic Pro Tour, what we call a YCS, for one event, and has topped multiple other of those events as well. The deck doesn't see play anymore. It was more of a circumstance of the format was a lot slower, and you could get away with playing stuff like this. But it was cool because Golden Castle actually saw play because it was a way to continuously fuel up the power of your Grenmajus, assuming you don't banish them, because that was like one of the faults of the deck. However, yeah, it actually did see play. The cards you can fetch off of Golden Castle are also quite good. They're not like game-breakingly good, but the monsters you can get are generally quite good. Like, one of them pops a spell and trap. One of them is just like a really strong monster that has a lot of like interesting utility. So you'd be happy to play the cards that Golden Castle can fetch as well, because they were quite good in actually achieving a secondary game plan if you can't one punch man your opponent. So that's the legacy of Golden Castle. It was a very, fabled card in the anime, and people were very hyped when they printed this in the actual game, just because, it's this mythical card that was supposed to be, like, all-powerful. And in a way, it sort of held up to its reputation, but this card sees, like, no play nowadays, so...
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the anime and hear about it. Like, that arc actually sounds exciting, and I think you told me over a year ago about the One Punch Man deck, and it's fun to see some of the pieces.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
It felt very like Magic in a way, like the whole design of this deck, but it's really cool that it like actually did well during the time that it was like right when they printed Golden Castle. It was sort of everything came together, that the format was in a place you could get away with doing something like this. It was just very fun, and it was exciting because everyone's just like, it was like the boogeyman in the room. Like, I really don't want to go up against the One Punch Man deck because I'm gonna get wrecked. It's funny too because you can set Grenmaju to Aiza face down, and it still has the bonus. So if you just set it and your opponent attacks into it, it'll have like 20,000 defense, and it just kills your opponent because they take damage from the difference. So that would also work. People would attack into it and just die instantly. It was very funny. It's very funny.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, man.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be fun sometimes, CGB. Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be fun sometimes.
You know, I feel like I had no way to win in this video, and yet at the end, I feel like we all won.
So guys, that's going to wrap it up for another video. I really hope you all enjoyed. Let's go ahead and shout the patrons for all their continued support. So shouts to Shout1317, Tim00x3, MBT Play Medolce, Moto, Cameron L. Smith, The Synchro Guy, Pony Stark, Dan the Man Hoban, Little Fadeleaf, Draconic, Brian Dancer of Class 7, Dylan Rare Hunter, JW11860, Flannel Daddy, literally all of the guinea pigs, Cheeks McLapperty, Stolfin Amethyst, MBT canceled by community soon, canceled by all committees soon, canceled by all players soon, Wonder Waffle, MBT and Nimnims 1, Boxer Brief, Fueled Knight of Passion, Daniel Howell, Electrician of the Ice Barrier, Arco, and the Nova 129. Thank you again so much for watching, and we will see you next time.